Hello. Hey OG, what's going on over there on YouTube? How's it going, man? Welcome to the Saturday Build Show. I'm your host, Ben Estrino, over here at the Empower Gaming Computer Studio. And I am going to be building a couple of PCs today. So we're going to be building 2 computers today. Do you remember me? Yes. Kind of. I think it was from last week's stream. You joined us on last week's stream, right? You were asking about some components. Right on. Yes. Awesome. Well, I'm going to be switching down to the top-down view, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the first build today. We're going to be starting off with Mr. Joel's computer today. This build was actually one of our pre-builds that we had on our ready-to-ship section of the website. He was looking for this exact build, so we rebuilt it, or we're rebuilding it today. So if you're curious, it's one of our rebuild or pre-built systems that we had ready to ship or ready for pickup. We're going to go through the build list, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with the build itself. So welcome everybody. Let's get started. Alright, so for the CPU, we're going to be building with the AMD Ryzen 5 5600 6 cores, 12 threads, 4.4 gigahertz max boost. We don't have a contact frame in this one because it's the AIM4 socket, so it's not really needed for that socket. Thermalright TF7 is going to be the thermal paste that we're going to be using for this build. The cooler we're going to be using is the Thermalright Frozen Note, which we do have out of the box because we originally purchased this one for actually a different build. And it ended up not fitting, and we had to switch it over to a 240mm AIO, which I don't know if you guys remember or recall that stream. It was from a couple weeks ago. So this is a brand new cooler. It just didn't fit in the build that we're going to put it in originally, so it's going to be used here on this build. It's just out of the box. I did already rotate the fans on there as well, so we don't have to do that. Cool. Then the outside of the 360mm AIO cooler that we're going to be using, which is the Frozen Note by Thermalright, which has 3 PWM addressable RGB fans with a 360mm radiator. We are going to be running the ASRock Phantom Gaming 4 AC ATX Wi-Fi motherboard. So this has got the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built into it. It's a full ATX motherboard, and then we're going to be putting 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 on the system, which is by T-Force Team Group, or it's by Team Group. This is the T-Force Delta Addressable RGB series. If you're not familiar, but these are 2 16GB sticks, totaling out to 32 gigabytes. So that's 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 RAM. Then we also have a 2TB M.2 NVMe Gen 4 SSD. It's a super fast drive by Team Group, which is the MP44. The graphics card we're going to be using in the build is the RTX 4060 8GB DDR6 128-bit PCIe 4.0 graphics card. This one's by Galax, if you're not familiar with that brand. It's actually a pretty cool brand. It's probably more popular in Asia, but it is here in the United States as well. This is the factory overclocked edition of the card, which also offers addressable RGB, which we'll have to get a sync cable from the card to the board so that we're syncing it all up. But we'll take care of that and make sure it's syncing up. But the fans are adjustable RGB, and I believe there's some RGB on the side, and if I remember correctly, some on the top or the back plate as well. So it's a really cool looking card. The aesthetics are pretty cool looking, and it's the same price as basically any other RTX 4060 out there. I think this is one of the cooler looking ones out of the 4060 lineup. The power supply we're going to be running is unfortunately reflecting a lot of the light, but it is the Sagittep GM 750 watt, which is a 750 watt 80 plus gold power supply, and it also offers the PCIe 5.0 power supply connection for future graphics card upgrades. So when Joel is ready to upgrade the graphics card, do say let's... I just realized the music is still a little loud, so I apologize about that. What happens when you only stream once a week now? You forget things. But the power supply is a 750 watt 80 plus gold. It's got PCIe 5.0. When Joel's ready to upgrade to, say, like an RTX 4070 Super, this power supply will support that, and it will have the connection needed for that graphics card. Very good parts for a PC. Thank you. Thank you. So, I hope everybody heard that, because that was a while before I realized how loud the music was. So normally I start out the stream with the music a little louder, and then when I come in, I'll turn that music down, and there's different sliders I have to adjust. Hey, good evening, Mr. Army Vet. Welcome to the Saturday Build Show once again. We're just getting started, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the build. We're going to move some of these components off to the side here, and we'll get started with the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM, the SSD, and the mounting brackets for the cooler. Actually, AM4 doesn't have any for this cooler, so we're good. Is it just me, or is your voice audio low? Shouldn't be. Might have been because I was further away from the mic. Or maybe the music is a little too loud. Let me know if this is any better. Is this any better? Better, better. Hello, check, test, 1, 2, 3, test, test. Let me know. It's probably not you. It's probably not where it normally is. Alright, so this is the E550 Phantom Gaming by ASRock, or ASRock. Your voice, it's low. Is it really? Let me look. So I can see it's a bit low. All right. Hold on. Well, I can turn up the gain a little bit. Is this any better? Or is this is not even adjusting it, is it? That is interesting. That should be putting us in the yellow, and it's not. Test, test. Test, 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 test. Yeah, that makes no impact. Interesting. Test, test. Test, test. Test. Test, test. Yeah, that's weird. Hey, what's up, Steve? How's it going? We got some weird audio issues going on apparently here. The volume on the mic is actually where it normally is. Is this... I just don't... Oh, now it's good? So restarting the... or unplugging and plugging the connection back in helped. Yeah, everything's where it should be, settings-wise, and I hope I'm using the right microphone, which I actually just double-checked, and I am. It's better. So if I crank this bad boy up, I should be going into the yellow, and it doesn't look like it's doing it, so maybe I got a microphone problem. Interesting. Oh, now it's perfect. So if I crank this bad boy up, it's perfect. Way up here, right here. This right here is perfect. Because this should be crackling on your end. Let me know if this is good. It should be crackling. And this is not good? Is this too low? I just changed the mic down to where it should be. You hear me fine? All right. So this is okay. You can hear me right here on this. This one right here. This setting, which I just... because I keep changing it. This is stupid. Because on my end, I see a monitor, and it looks fine to me. So I can't tell what you're actually hearing unless I go look back at the video or the stream. All right, so we're going to leave it right here at the crackling level. We'll see what happens. All right, so with this is the, again, we'll go back to it, the ASRock Phantom Gaming 4 AC. It's an AIM-4 motherboard. It's the B550. Other people call it ASRock. Some people call it ASRock. So let's get this build going. Okay, so let's, we could zoom in here and get a nice shot of the installation. Hopefully the camera, there we go, adjusts. Perfect. Let's get the CPU installed, and then we'll get the RAM and the SSD installed, then we'll slap this in a case. Get the AIO installed. It's actually a pretty easy build to do, honestly. All things considered, the build's actually pretty simple if you ever wanted to do something like this build. The case is what makes it simple. So that's our AMD Ryzen 5 5600 that's in there, and then we're going to do 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 by Team Group GeForce Delta Adjustable RGB series. This stuff is pretty good if you haven't already used it or ever used it. So any AMD build or builds with AMD graphics cards coming in the near future, not currently. There is a liquid build that I want to do for me, my personal upgrade, eventually later down the road, which is going to be an open loop build with AM5, and I do want to run a 6900 XT, or I want to run like a 7800, or even if I have enough funds for everything, then I'll do a 7900. But I do want to do a full AMD build and a white case with some cool customizations on it as well. That will be a personal build for me. I desperately kind of need a stream upgrade. My PC struggles with the amount of things that I have plugged into it. So it struggles around the USB connections, not enough bandwidth there to do everything I want it to do. And that's where the struggle is. So if I get that upgraded along with the USB controller that I already have, with another USB controller card, then I'll have all the USBs that I'll ever need and be able to use and do a lot more with the stream. The other option is to build out a second stream PC and do it that way, but that's a lot more work. A lot more work to set up, and it's double the amount of space on your... And I need that physical space. 7000 XT works really good for me, plus AMD put out and fix with the latest drivers. Nice. Yeah. What do you think about that Intel NVIDIA issue with or the Intel issues where they are literally downclocking the 14900K or 13900? They're sending less power to it to keep it from, I guess, overheating. There's like supposedly overheating problems going on. I haven't seen any. I haven't honestly played with a 14900K or 13900K since this came out, which was I think a week ago, maybe now, maybe 2 weeks. Been kind of floating around in the news. I haven't seen a 14900K since. There we go. We've got our AMD Ryzen 5 5600 installed, our 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 installed, and then our 2 terabyte M.2 NVMe Gen 4, also by Team Group. MP44. Let's get the case out, shall we? Ooh. If you're not familiar with it, the case is the Montech Sky 2. You've seen me build with these probably several times in the past. There are famous Intel i9 build that we did, which we're actually going to be changing up here in a little bit. Phantom Storm on our website. We did several of those builds in this case, and I actually still love this case, and it's not that we're discontinuing it, it's just that I'm going to redo the build on the website, so it's not just available with the Intel i9. But you can also choose which processor you want with your build. Which RAM, how much RAM you want, which video card you want, which is going to reflect your power supply size, and then also your cooler. So it's cool customizations that are going to be available for this tower, for the Phantom Storm on our website. That goes actually for all of our builds on our website. They're all going to have that same feature. Motherboard companies are doing it, sending way too much power to the CPU. Yeah, I know there's a lot of BIOS updates within the last couple weeks regarding that. Just like they were doing it with the 7800X 3D and blowing it up. I know. All right, so that we have that in place, the back I/O shield, which covers the holes in the back of the motherboard where the USB ports are. It wasn't perfect. Need to get that cleaned up, lined up nicely. All right. Now that that's lined up beautifully, we can get 9 screws out of this hardware kit from the case. And we could get this motherboard mounted to the case. This is our hardware kit that comes with the case. And then these are our motherboard slash 2.5 SSD screws, which also used to be, back in the day, CD-ROM, DVD-ROM, Bluetooth, drive bay screws as well. For all you old school builders out there. When I get my 12900KS, the motherboard, an Asus Z690 Prime, had 1.5 volts for the CPU that over time will ruin the CPU, yeah. So I always tell everybody, keep an eye on the updates for the BIOS. Likely, it'll have a fix for those, and it'll save your CPU from burning out. Especially after reading all these issues. I should probably read up on, you know, read up on that and post some recommendations. Personally, I'm not running Intel, so not really fully paying attention to it until I build one. But I mean, regardless, we're always putting the most recent version. You need to leave now because in Albania it's 047. Yeah, no problem, man. Have a good night, sir. Thank you again for joining. All right, that's that. Got our motherboard installed. Now we can get this bottom fan here. But let's take care of, before we put that bottom fan in, get these connections done. Our front panel I/O connections. Be a whole bunch of connections here that we have to deal with. Not a whole ton, but there's a few. Let's see here. We've got our front panel USB 3. Have you? Front panel USB-C is not going to work because there's not a connection here on the board for it. Forgot about that when I built this the first time. Not the end of the world, but for reference or for awareness, that is more of an annoyance than anything. Not a problem. Alright, front panel HD audio, go there. Front panel power connection, power button, etc. So, sure. And I believe we have an addressable RGB connection on this board down here at the bottom. Perfect. That lining. Short cable, I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in. The front panel USB 3. And here's our front panel power connector. I know you really can't see the camera angle. But if you reference your motherboard manual, you'll be able to pull. All right, those are all done. Now we'll get this bottom fan installed here on the very bottom. Have a good night, sir. Just updated my BIOS on the Z690 Prime. 2802 to 3205 seems to be a whole lot more stable. Yeah, definitely. That is the #1 reason why I do BIOS updates before any of these PCs leave. Anytime I touch them, remotely or not remotely, after they're out and about, they contact me for support. That is another thing that we do. Anytime a PC comes back through here is they get a BIOS update. Requirement. So this is a reversible fan, so the blades are reversed. I just need a couple of fan screws, or actually more like radiator screws. Need 4 of them. Great. There's that. Do we have another PWM connection over here? We do. I'm gonna run this back up here. This guy could also run back up here, actually. I'm okay with. Alright, let's go ahead and drop the power supply in here because I want the power supply in here and the EPS cables on here before we put the AIO in. That AIO in, it gets a little squishy up there in the top and it's hard to get my fingers up in that area. So we're going to get that AIO installed first. I'm sorry, the power supply installed before the AIO. We're running again a Segitech 750 80 plus watt. I'm sorry, 750 watt, 80 plus gold modular power supply. The words seem to get stuck in my mouth. There was another update that you could have installed, but it was a beta. Yeah, I don't like running betas. I actually, for the most part, will avoid running betas if I can. Very important fix needed to solve a problem, and the full version hasn't been released yet. Then I will. But always read the fine notes of the beta. The details are important. Do not blindly download and install a BIOS and assume that it's the right one to run. Always read the notes. Same thing when you're taking medications. You want to know what the hell you're putting in your body. It's the same thing for PT. You want to know what you're installing motherboard. This is face down like that. PCIe 100. No questions there. So here's our PCIe 5.0 / 12 volt high power cable. that is on the power supply, ready for when he's going to run a card that requires that connection. Yard of Dirt reporting in. Hey, stopping in for a minute. What's up, man? How's it going? Thanks for stopping in. Welcome to the Saturday Build Show, where hopefully all your Saturday chores are done and you can relax the rest of the weekend. They aren't? Well, probably not. It, Funny, how are you doing a build for Joel? And I was just playing The Last of Us not too long. I don't know. I think it's a different Joel. I'm not that popular. And we have a pretty good sized following, but it's mostly around people either interested in watching PC builds, or it's people interested in watching their PC being built, which, you know, they'll follow, watch their stream, and then that's pretty much it. And then they'll check in every now and then, which is cool. But yeah, I'm not that popular. Wrong Joel. Okay. Right, there we go. Those are all plugged in. That's the majority of our cables, other than getting our pump and our AIO fans and a addressable RGB that needs to be installed and plugged in. We also have a graphics card with a, I believe, which will get added here. Let's actually just get that installed now real quick. I think we could do that. Actually, no, let's wait for that until after. After we get the... what do you call this thing? AIO installed. Yeah. Come on. Use the French. Don't normally use it on the stream. There we go. So this top panel needs to come off for the AIO installation. Then we got to get our hardware, our mounting hardware. Get our PWM fan connection for all of our fans. Gonna daisy chain off the CPU header. We'll send that to the back because that's where all the cables are gonna be. Once we get... Could be. Ready to install this AIO already. Because I don't have to flip these cables around. Or the fans, excuse me. Already did it. I'm going to put it in another build, and it didn't fit in that case. So I had an available brand new 360mm AIO sitting here ready to go in. We changed that other one out to a 240 because it just wouldn't fit in the case that we were trying to put it in. 360. Changed it out. And I had a pair brand new 360mm sitting here. Up being this build that was going to use this exact cooler. Held on to it for that build. Why it wasn't packaged, all that. Unpacked. Oh. Alright, so now we're ready to screw this in. Here we go. These poles are all lined up all the way across. Be on the struggle bus later. Oh. Now we just have a few more screws to add. That'll secure the radiator to the top of the case. I think this would be a record breaker because we didn't have to deal with anything on this radiator outside of putting it in. Record breaker on this build. So it kind of does help if your AIO is prepped and ready to go in. Noted for when we become a super builder and we're building hundreds a day. That'll probably be years and years from now. You've been playing the Fallout. Aha! So you've been playing Fallout because you went and watched Fallout, didn't you? Yes. You've been enjoying the Fallout TV show. I'm sorry. Enjoying the Fallout TV show, and now the game has got popular again. Yeah, I know. I saw that. There's a lot of updates on Steam around its ratings all of a sudden. It came back to life. Ta-da! But our AIO is installed. There we go. Starting to look like a gaming PC now, right? Next, we have to route this pump connection backside. Before we get too far here. Nice little hole at the top of the top corner of the case here. Front top. Absolutely perfect for the pump cable because this is an inline pump where the pump is on the hoses versus on the block or the radiator, which makes it so the pump is never lowest point of the loop unless you put the hoses, I'm sorry, the highest point of the loop unless you put the hoses at the top. If this was standing up, that would be a kind of a problem, but it's still technically not the top. So the reason why is because you don't want air getting trapped inside your pump. You get air trapped inside your pump, it burns out. So next we're going to mount it probably like so. Avoid cables from rubbing up on the G2 hoses. Gotta loosen up these little clamps, clamp onto the AM4 brackets. And we gotta put some thermal paste down. Thermal paste time! There we go. Thermal paste. Hopefully this has some left in it. We got more. Thermal paste. Now we're ready to drop this down onto you. Thermal paste down. This one hooked. Here we go. Second one, there we go. And then all we have to do is screw these in, which will tighten it down onto the CPU and apply the mounting pressure that we need to keep this CPU cool. I'm just going to run one screw down here on these brackets. Doesn't seem that tight. Sure, it's tight as we can get it. You know, where I want it. Not as tight as we can get it, but as tight as I want it. There we go. So now with the AIO installed, all we have on the back side are some fans, a pump, and an addressable RGB connection for the block. We got to put the graphics card in, and then we have to somehow route that graphics card RGB cable, which we're going to look at here in just a moment. I have a couple of RGB extension cables I have in mind to use for this scenario, available on hand for this exact need. Zotac also used to do addressable RGB sync cables. EVGA, I think, did at one point as well. I think there was a couple others that did. Then they started getting smart and running it through the connection and using software to manage it. I have a cheap case I've been thinking about doing a sleeper build-in. Nice. I have a really old Cooler Master case that I was gonna maybe do a build-in as well. Or if I ever ran into the time that somebody needed a case cheap, $99 cheap, have that. It's an older Cooler Master kit, and it's got some age to it. Not bad, right? It's still perfectly not modern. It's black. Alright, So here is our RTX 4060 by Galax. Galax. Which has the addressable RGB fans on the bottom. And I believe it has a little bit more RGB on it somewhere else as well, but here's our sync cable connection right here next to the power cable. This is where it goes. Where you go, huh? The cable's in a weird spot. Where's it? So, but I dropped it right here. Am I crazy? Or am I not crazy? I'm crazy. Did I throw it? Did it fall down there? No. Ah! Oh, it's right here. In front of me. Okay, never mind. I thought I was losing my mind. Okay, so there's this little sync cable, ARGB connection. We're going to run it off this card. Hello there! Hey, TP Man. Hello there. Over there on the Twitch, where you can play sound bits. I actually forgot that still worked. Alright, so this could be a little tricky to get plugged in if you got big fat fingers like me. But once you get that cable plugged in, then we're probably going to run it along the back side here and then to the back of the case to get to that RGB hub. We'll install the card like normal from here now that we have that in place and we have a good idea of what we're doing there with it. And we'll drop the card in. Our power cord plugged into the card, the PCIe cable. And finish the connections on the back side of the PC. Cable management would help if I took these out. Then we're ready to fire this thing up already. We're just under an hour right now, so pretty good timing. Very good timing. There we go. A little bit of finagling. None of these cases are actually perfect, in my opinion. So it takes a little bit of a finagle. Here's just looking at the i7 5820K. I actually have here, hold on. I've got this guy sitting over here, Steve. I'll zoom in on it. An i7 5960X. This old bad boy. I don't have the motherboard for it anymore. Motherboard died on it, unfortunately. Stopped posting. Couldn't figure out what it was. So I've got that sitting around, doing nothing. Anyway. how you get out of that. There's our PCIe connection to our graphics card. This is what powers the graphics card. And continuing to talk about power cables, we had our 24 pin over here and our CPU EPS. The 24 pin is what powers the motherboard itself, and then the CPU EPS is what powers the CPU. And then this PCIe cable for the graphics card, which is 8 pins, and it's powering the GPU. Alright, so now that we've got that installed, we can not run this cable through the fan blades. That would be interesting. But we'll kind of run it around here like that on the side of the card, let it go towards the back of the PC, and then we'll get it plugged in there. Let's flip this bad boy over and get to the back side where all the funness is. I'm going to grab all these RGB connections and seal it here. Separate them from our PWM fan connectors. We know which one goes. This way. Down the main channel. Main cable channel. Here. Have a ton of cable on. In. Currently. We made one boo-boo, and that is this cable needed to go the other direction. Oops. Here we go. Then we'll deal with these ones here in just a moment. So let's kind of rotate this a little bit so we can get to this piece up here. Mainly this is addressable RGB for the fans on the radiator, the block itself. That's really it, but we want to get it all plugged into the same hub. We're using auxiliary power instead of power from the motherboard to power these suckers. Saves the burnout on the RGB port on the motherboard. Power's not being drawn from the motherboard, it's being drawn from a SATA connector on this board on the back side. That is one of the benefits to the hub. X99 motherboard build, that gaming computer for older games. A GTX 980 to go with it and cool it with water. That CPU would sprout wings again. Yeah, I know. Kind of like on my bucket list. It'd be actually a really cool CPU to use because you could run Windows 10 and a modified quote-unquote version of Windows 11 I don't think that supports that CPU supports TPM or that security protocols that Windows 11 needs. But you can still get it installed, not with this. But anyway, what I'm saying is I could use that, maybe that Alienware build that I want to do, or that project that I'm planning to do. That would be an interesting one. Water cooling an Alienware from 2003 and modernizing it at the same time. That would have to be like more of a YouTube series, weekly video drop style. Right. That. Hope we're not. Alright, so the last piece we have to really clean up is here and here. And we're good to go. We can fire this bad boy up in just moments away. We have two of these SATA connectors that we have to plug in. I want to get these a little untangled here. Completely here. Oh. Very nice. Good. Das ist good, yeah. Good cable management, yeah? Yeah, TPM in Intel is 8th gen and up. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yep. I knew it was like 9th gen or 8th gen or somewhere in there. I was pretty sure the 5th gen did not have it. Makes sense. All right, here we go. Last bulge of cables to clean up here. Go. There we go. Snippity snip snip. Snippity stuff stuff. These are all extra cables as well for future upgrades if he ever needs them or wants them. But they're there, ready and waiting. Connections are there and ready and waiting for future. They're inside the system so they don't accidentally get missed. All right, there we go. Does that look clean enough for everybody, or complaints on the cable management here? Everybody's satisfied with the cable management. Just a rumor, but I understand Microsoft may get rid of the TPM requirement for Windows 12. I don't know. They made a huge deal about that with Windows 11. I don't know. They might give you like a different version, like a light version of Windows 12 or something. That's probably, more of what they would do. I don't know. I don't know what they would do. All right. So let's clean up some of this hardware, get this back panel, top panel back on, and we'll fire this bad boy back up, or fire it up for the first time, and see what this looks like for the first time. I'm sure there's Joel out there who's really excited to see it fired up. Oops. Oh boy. This is going to be a struggle. It's not. Got a lot of extra cables up here at the top side going down that center. I probably could have done it a little bit. Got it. No big deal. Flopping around. Nope. Got top panel on, clean up some of this hardware, fire it up. Panel. Oh yeah, and I've got to peel this. Nope. Nice. All right, plugging it in, and then we'll get you a side view here. Right before we turn it on. Yeah. 5 at a time. First time powering on. All right. Y'all ready to see this thing or what? All right. Who's ready for me to push this power button? Really quick, Steve. Let's do it! They understand they could had a whole lot more people upgrading it if they did not have the requirements. They want Windows 12 to be a hit, plus they want all that AI data they get. Yeah, anything for data. Let's do it! We're punching it. Joel, are you here? Hope you're watching this. Because your beast has powered on for its first time. We've gotten a post. Yes, we've posted. So I still know how to build a PC, and Joel's PC is now built. Are you kidding me? Of course I know how to build a PC. Isn't it beautiful? Excuse me. You can get an RGB tan from this one. Definitely. But it's got that front panel window as well, so if we kind of show off the window here, the side panel is going to be a glass window. We'd put it on there, but it gets a little too reflective, picking up the light from the other side of the room. So you really can't see much. But right here, you can kind of see the window here, just to give you an idea. But the side panel is also glass that'll be going on here. You'll see all of that on your desk. Super cool looking. Like I said, these cases by Montech, the Sky 2, are just really nice looking cases. The only thing I would say with Montech is I would offer another version of this case with another fan here included, even if it's an extra $10, because tracking down that fan is kind of a pain in the butt. I know they're available on Amazon, but I would like to have that filled out if I'm buying this case in the future. Hey, good morning everyone from Greece. Well, how's it going over there on YouTube, sir? Pan? welcome back to the build stream. We've still got one more build to do. So, Mr. Joel, the PC is built, but we still have to run through the Windows installation, the driver installation, the BIOS update, so all the software side of things, basically, and updates that we're going to be doing to the system to make sure it's running at its finest before it's ready for pickup. So I should have this ready for pickup, if not tomorrow, which would be kind of a stretch tomorrow, then I will have it ready for pickup Monday for you. So expect Monday, have your PC if you're able to come pick up. From the first I build my own PC, and the first time I pressed the button, I fell in love with the PC building, creating something different every time. Yes, I enjoy that as well. Everything going fine, sir. Thanks for asking. Awesome. That is good to hear, especially over there in Greece. Quite a hop and a skip from here in the US. But all right, we're going to go ahead and shut down Joel's PC, and we're going to move on to the next build. Build number 2. Yes. Well, you saw it? Oh. Oh, good. We'll finish watching Blue. Okay, we gotta finish updating the name for the build, and then we'll get started here on build number 2. Build number 2 for Elena. Kind of seen a common theme. Another one of these, but the Ryzen 7, and we're on a B550 Aurora Elite AX V2, and we're doing it in white with 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, 3200 for 4, 2 terabyte, same drive, Ryzen 700X, RTX 4060, 750 watt E plus gold power supply, the B550 motherboard, but this is the Aurora Elite AX V2, and then we're running a air cooler, which is the Thermalright Peerless Assassin SE in white with addressable RGB. We have some white sleeved cables here as well for the power supply. So, and we're going to be putting this in a Montech Air 903 Max. Not you, Max. The other Max. Case. Talking about Max, I'm talking about the case. Calm down. I tell people, if you have someone build your PC, you do it will not like any other store built PC. You won't have something like a Mac. They will look alike, not the one you built. Yeah. No, I agree with that. But you know, that's why a lot of people come to me, is because they don't want to buy something with proprietary parts. For example, Dell. they use a lot of proprietary parts. So if you wanted to, for example, swap out the case to a different case, you're probably not going to be very successful. There are kits and ways to do it, but it doesn't make it universal for your next upgrades. It makes it a big pain in the butt where you're spending extra money, which then leads down the path why even bother buying the Dell if you're planning to do that in the future anyway. And that goes for some of HP builds. For the most part, HP is actually pretty good outside of some of their case connections to the motherboard are proprietary. So then again, it goes back to the same situation as Dell. If you wanted to, say, upgrade the motherboard in that build, you couldn't. And you'd have to use an HP motherboard, which is, in my opinion, dumb. So when it comes to gaming PCs, where people are constantly adding to it, if you're only looking to upgrade something like storage and RAM and the graphics card, you could buy an HP. But if you're looking to continue your PC for a long period of time, like I do, or like a lot of people do, then you're going to want something that's more universal, which is something like what we're building here. So that's usually the big difference. But Elena, let's go ahead and get started with your build. I hope you're ready for it, and I hope you're here watching. If you miss it, you can always catch it over on YouTube, or Twitch, or Kick, or Facebook, or Twitter. That was interesting. All right, let's get started. I'm going to toss some of these parts away. Side. Don't need it right now. Not one either. Actually, let's just keep that up there for a little bit later. Start with the motherboard. CPU, the RAM, the SSD, and then we'll also tackle the cooler here. Beautiful looking Gigabyte. Elite series are always really cool looking. I want your opinion about Deepcool AK620 Digital. Is it a good idea to buy this CPU for Intel Socket 1700 or AM4 CPU or AM5? Yes, those are really good coolers. They're good coolers. I'll say good, not really good, but good. Good coolers, solid. By Deepcool. If you want to save a few dollars, and I know if you're buying the AK620 Digital, it's because it has the little LED screen with the temperature readout on it. But if you want a cheaper cooler that performs, if not better, you could take a look at the Thermalright Peerless Assassin, which is exactly what I'm going to be using on this build here today. Those are actually really good coolers, in my opinion, for the price, and it cannot be beaten by its price. It just can't be the price per performance, or dollar to performance is not beaten. I guess that's the right way to put it, right? Yeah. Okay, so moving on. But the AK620 is definitely a good cooler, and I would use it on PCs, definitely. It is one that I can recommend, and I have used in the past. And that goes with their newer case lineup too. Is actually pretty cool. I've always been a big fan of Deepcool, honestly. They have been getting a little bit more pricey lately. When they first became a bit more popular here in the United States a couple years ago, they were a lot cheaper. It was a brand that I was constantly using back then. Years ago. You probably remember some of my Titan builds that I had on my website originally were actually in Deepcool cases. Which was cool to see. But we've since then gotten bigger and more demanding things in there. All right, let's zoom in on this. Get a nice close-up of what are we doing exactly. Well, we are installing a CPU here in the AM4 socket. Then we're going to install 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM in the A2, B2 slots here, over here in the RAM for the slot for the RAMs. This is what happens when you drink too much caffeine. And then we have an M.2 slot here, which is where we're going to put the SSD, the storage, right here underneath this piece of metal, which is called a heat spreader. All right, let's get started with the CPU into the AM4 socket. Yeah, it's when the caffeine hits. That's where the problem starts happening. When the caffeine hits all at the same time. And you've been drinking caffeine all day today, hoping for that final. Hey, where's that? Probably should switch water. All right, so our AM4 Ryzen 7 5700X CPU is installed here, and that's got 8 core, 16 threads, and a max boost. I think it was like 4.5, 4.4, 4.6 gigahertz. Was wrong both times. I'm very good at this. I was thinking if I did upgrades, all I would need is a better graphics card. I have 32 gigs of RAM. Yes, that's plenty for any gaming PC. My PC one has an i9 10850, and the other one a 5800X3D, and an i9 12900KS. So yeah, you have pretty much all the horsepower you need there. So I would say graphics card. So happy to watch you build my PC. Well, welcome. For everybody's awareness, Elena is over there on Twitter. Twitch. Yeah, Twitch. Watching the stream. Yes, we're finally doing it. Trying to open up the RAM here. So we've got 2 sticks of 16 gigabytes total, totaling out to 32 gigabytes. This is by Team Group. This is the T-Force Vulcan Z DDR4 3200. And we're going to be putting it in A2, B2. That is the slot number. Really only put RAM in one way, because it's slotted here in the middle of the stick of RAM. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is a slot there. It really only allows you to install it one way. Really can't install those incorrectly unless you really force it, which then if you force that in, you've got more problems than an incorrect installation of RAM. And next up we have our 2TB M.2 NVMe SSD by Team Group. This is the MP44, and I believe we have read-write speeds with the 3D TLC NAND at 7,000 megabits per second. So a super fast M.2 NVMe drive is going to make those loading times and read-write speeds seem like there's no wait at all. Fast. You won't even have time to sip your coffee. Morning, if you're a coffee sipper, you're actually going to be doing that during production time now, not while waiting for the do something. So, apologize for that. That's nothing I can change. That's snappy, and you have to work around that. So we've installed our M.2 SSD. Now we're going to put our heat spreader back over the top of it as a thermal pad under. Helps transfer the off of the SSD onto metal spreader, which then passively cools with the air that's moving around inside the case. That helps cool the SSD. All right, so next up we have what else? Our Peerless Assassin in white. This is our massive air cooler that we're going to be installing. This thing's what's going to be cooling our CPU. So this bad boy is a massive chunk of metal with copper heat pipes and a couple of fans and some mounting hardware. Really all this is. But all of it is needed to cool this big CPU. Okay, sorry, I was just getting rid of the box so I don't have to keep tripping over them every time I walk back and forth. There we go. Next up, we want to get the hardware ready to go for this cooler. Get the cooler out. Yes. That'll help. That way you can see what I'm doing. Kind of. Maybe. A little bit. Maybe one more graphics card. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Like, I don't know, though. Have you played around with VR yet, Steven? You? So here's our AM4, AM5 mounting hardware, which we'll need for the installation of this cooler. I'm going to also put our seat. I'm just going to put that on there right now, because why not? Our fan brackets, and the rest of this is not going to be needed, because it's all Intel stuff. We're not using Intel today, we are using AMD. But they ship the hardware for Intel and AMD, so you can put the cooler on either platform. Not just stuck to one platform. There's our AMD brackets, which we need. Alright. AMD and Intel. I'm sorry. These stock brackets that come with your motherboard, these plastic black things, need to be unscrewed because we cannot use them with this cooler versus the past build that we just did used them. So it's always a good idea to have these, depending on which cooler you're buying. You might need them. Again, buying a motherboard on the used market, make sure you have the brackets, the back plate with an AM4 motherboard or AM5 motherboard. Sucks when you don't have it. In this case, we're not going to be using it, but Elena, your hardware that came with this motherboard will be shipped or sent with the piece. You have it as well. 100%. I know what I'm doing without looking at the instructions. Okay, so now that that is done, we're actually ready to blop some thermal paste down on this. And then I'm going to use my extra long Phillips driver. Get things started here. And there's 2 screws on each side, the top and the bottom, that screw into the 2 brackets that we just installed for the mounting hardware. And we're going to go a couple of turns on each one until we're down snug. That'll give us the proper mounting hardware for AMD, AM4. Mounting pressure. Mounting pressure is a good word. So happy to watch my PC build. I think I already read that one. Yeah, that hasn't moved. There we go. There's our massive white heatsink. Fancy and white. And I somehow made the Thermalright logo the right direction intentionally accidentally. Which I normally call that out, but I did it right. Didn't have to think about it. I don't like riding a bike. Alright, so next up we got to add the fans to the cooler itself. That way, you know, they can be blowing air across the pins like we need them to. I'm going to go ahead and get the clips that clip onto the fan here. Then clip onto the heatsink. Just don't know how low they have to go here for this RAM. So we can all the way down. Huh. How low can we go? Well, there we go. We got our fans installed or mounted. Hey, what's up, some giant idiot? Welcome back, sir. Long time no see. Been like a week. That's because I haven't streamed in a week. Come on. Need the zip tie. Gosh darn it. Yes, I did. I heard about it. Hope we're talking about the same thing, or thinking about the same thing, because there's a lot of Intel, like, news. Good evening. Yes. That's been flying around, so hope we're thinking about the same thing. What I'm thinking about is, like, the whole overheating thing, but that's mostly on 14900, 13900Ks. Less likely on your i3s. Oh, yeah. Same thing. Yep, next. Yep. Yes, sir. I heard about that. The overheating, which is caused by the overwattage. Limited power! Yes. Pretty stupid that they don't have that shit. Like, how do they not have this figured out? That's what I don't understand. It's been out for how long? Yeah, no, yeah. When we are tuning a PC with, for example, Chamber Tech, generally with the 13th, 14th gen especially the i9, we are undervolting it. And we can actually get more performance out of it because undervolting means we're sending less power to it, which means it can run cooler, which means it can run faster in a way. So it's a kind of a weird theory of, hey, we're actually sending less power to it and we're getting it to run or perform better. Why isn't this just implemented across all of them yet? Oh yeah, people do that. I mean, when we ship out a PC, we're going to ship out a PC at stock BIOS. So I can't spend the time tuning every single PC unless, of course, we're paid for the time to do it. So if we are tuning it, then that's, you know, something you paid for. But if it's a PC we're building it, you either have, or we're expecting you to have the knowledge or understanding there a little bit, the best we can. In fact, where's my little snip? Or we'll send out an email saying, hey, by the way, you know, this is a thing. Make sure you either update your BIOS to correct the problem or undervolt. But generally speaking, if we ship out PCs that are overclocked and tuned every time, we're going to have more stability issues. Although Intel is proving us wrong. Got you back? Thanks. Sometimes I have your back. All right, so there's our massive cooler installed onto our Ryzen 750 700X. Time to get the case out and drop this in there. Let's do that, shall we? Every time you pull a case out of a box, you're not using gravity to your advantage like me. I'm an idiot. I always feel like I'm pulling Thor's hammer off the ground. Excalibur out of the stone. Thing. Pulling a metal case out of a cardboard box. Feels like that. Youch! Sorry. Smack the microphone. What you been caught up doing? Did you make a spring trip to New York City? I did not. No spring trip to you. I'll have an update, you know, later. Probably a quick video of what's going on over here. But I'm still building, still doing all that. Just like normal. We don't have a ton of builds going on right now. So I'm working on some different projects and things that I'm focused on. Well, such as that PC flipping video that I will one day start that series, and it'll be a YouTube series. I went away for a while to get dinner going. Nice. Yeah, we just don't have a ton of builds to stream, so I gotta start coming up with different content. Especially during the summer months, it always slows down. Never busy. I mean, you'll see, there might even be a month this year where we don't have a build during the summer. That's how slow it gets during the summer. It slows way down. And we are now entering those summer months. So I cannot rely on the performance of PC building to pay the bills. Plus, of course, I have a marketing budget just as big as, you know, I Buy Power or Cyber Power, which is, you know, they spend probably thousands of dollars a day in their marketing. It might help if I zoomed out. Yes, I do offer cleaning services. I offer open loop services. Those are mostly like, you know, local people too. But if somebody wants to ship me their PC and pay for the shipping back, I'd be happy to clean it for them live on stream if they wanted me to do something like that. I went away for a while to get dinner going. Nice. I think I already read that comment. I'm sorry. I'm just too much caffeine. but I do repair services, which is actually mostly what I did this week. I just didn't stream any of it, which I should have. I should have taken the advantage to stream. Derp. Should have done that. Alright, so we're going to have 9 screws to screw the, or finish mounting the board to the case. There's 1 of 9. 2 of 9. Hey. Hey. When the kiddo comes over here and steals your packaging tape because they can't find the other tape inside the house, so they steal the packaging tape from the business. Then, when I'm freaking out trying to find my packaging tape, which is on a roller, it's not be found. Everybody is doomed by the wrath that's been created. Huh, here we go. Had to move that cable. It was in my way. So if there's any other ideas, right now I have a PC series planned out for YouTube, which is PC flipping, basically, which is how I started the business. And Power Gaming Computers is how I really got buried into this stuff. My hobby turned into PC flipping, which turned into a website, which turned into streaming builds and making some sort of helpful videos on YouTube. But I mean, the YouTube channel isn't producing any money. No money is coming out of that YouTube channel yet, so really no money's coming out of any platform really yet, other than a couple of donations and subscribers here and there, which is fine. And I'm not at all expecting anybody to pay for anything. But it would be cool, you know, if I start putting in some time to do some helpful videos, you know, where the YouTube channel starts producing something. That'd be cool. And I'm not, again, anticipating that that's going to be the solution for the downtime, but I have to come up with some sort of solution for downtime, which is during the summer. Other than that, PC building is a seasonal thing for smaller builders like me. I'm still considered probably small, even though I definitely don't feel like it's a small thing anymore when it's taking up as much time as it does. It's just, I'm not doing the volume that other big companies are doing that could survive the weak season. Alright, so we've got some cable extensions here. This is sleeved with some cable combs that we're going to add real quick. Get the front panel connectors in. So then we have that ready to go for our stuff. Other stuff. Other thing above operas, the graphics card, thank you. So it'll be pretty quick and easy here to get this all plugged in and done. We're actually probably a good 20 minutes from being finished here. I'm going to start with the EPS cable, which is what powers the CPU. This is a cable extension, but it's white sleeved. And the reason why we use these is purely aesthetics. So for example, pretty white cable versus standard black cable. It'll look very nice in this white build. Designed perform. By the way, if you went big box store, about the same performance for money, probably definitely nearly as thick looking as this. The only downside with the AIM4 platform is there are very, very, very small amounts of white motherboards, and the white motherboards are very, very expensive. So right now, the performance per dollar is the AIM4 platform. So if we're trying to build something for performance, but also not spend $1 million, not that a PC is $1 million, but we have a budget, that AIM4 is generally the right platform to choose from, which is still being updated by AMD to this day. So still not a dead platform, even though everybody says it is, but it's not. I know there is a lot of people that use their PC for gaming, but do you think most people use their PC for business and or looking up to a copier and so hooking up to a copier and so on? And do you think this is mostly gaming now? I mean, definitely if you compare the amount of PCs in the business world versus the amount of PCs in gaming, the PCs in the business world are probably double, more than double, than the PCs for gaming in the world. Think about it. Every person that works has a PC for work now, almost every person. And if they don't, they have some sort of mobile device. But that is a lot of people, and not all people in the world game. So there's a shit ton of people out there that have PCs for work. I'm actually working for an MSP right now, doing work. To give you an idea, this one business alone has over 100 workstations in the small building that it's in. That's 100 Windows 10 or Windows 11 computers. So there's a lot of money to be made in the business world for services, and that is year-round. That just takes it. That's just a whole nother ball game. I could probably do something like that with a business, but that would take me away from doing the stuff I actually love doing, which is building PCs and hanging out with people like you guys. So during that, it's also coming out. Something bad happens, and you have to shut down. Vicious cycle. I am a cloud solutions and so people like to bring a lot of different problems to me around the business side of world, or the business side of things, and I'll come up with a solution primarily cloud focused. So whether it's Microsoft Azure, SharePoint, Teams, or the Office 365 suite, that's what I'm using for solutions a lot. For a lot of problems. And this is more like infrastructure problems, like, hey, we have a whole bunch of storage on-prem, but we don't want to continue buying storage. What do? We can start sending some of that up to the cloud. And there's a lot of different reasons why you would, and then there's a lot of different reasons why you wouldn't. But stuff like that, you know? Fun. Alright, so now that we got these power connectors plugged in, we're almost ready to just drop a card in, drop a power supply. I want to get some of these connections, front panel connector. Obviously, our power reset buttons we're dealing with here. I gotta look at all this. All on the bottom. All bottom. There we go. All right. That's in the right spot. That's in the right. Going to be. Up through here. That's it. Much as I hate redoing things, doing it. You do things like virus cleanup and stuff like that? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for residential, we'll call it, and or business stuff. But virus cleanup today is rare. It's more of what we call pup software, potentially unwanted program is what it's called now, and virus related things. Generally, the only viruses out there are data collectors or data miners, but nothing really that's terribly impactful on the Windows side of things. It's all about data collection now and getting your information. So that's what you're mostly fighting or combating for any type of cleanup. And on the business side of the world, breaches is what we call it. And a breach is generally when somebody gets in from the outside in and deploys a package, and generally it's either, again, data mining for information, or it could be a sleeper. Hey, what specs are going into this PC? I'll touch on that in just a second. Real Talk Gaming. Welcome to the build stream, by the way. And so it's either data mining or it's a package deployed for ransomware attacks where it'll encrypt data across the network depending on what kind of credentials it has and what it has access to. And once it encrypts that data, it holds it as ransom and says, hey, send us 12 Bitcoins and we'll send you a decryptor code and tool to decrypt your data. And generally the only way you can get out of that situation is from backups, and that takes months to complete. Sometimes, depending on the size of the business, really get through all of it. And months in the business world can mean millions and millions and millions of dollars. So depends, on what you want to do. All right. So what specs are going into this PC? So this PC specifically, we'll start with the CPU, which is the AMD Ryzen 7 5700X on the AM4 platform, which is a Gigabyte Aorus Elite AX B550 motherboard, V2, if that matters. We have 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 megahertz by Team Group, which is the T-Force Vulcan, and then a 2 terabyte M.2 NVMe Gen 4 SSD by Team Group as well, which is the MP44. And then we have an RTX 4060 gigabyte graphics card, which we're just now getting to install right now, with a 750 watt 80 plus gold rated power supply with PCIe 5.0 for future upgrades, which is at 12 volt high power cable connector, the 16 pin. And then we have some white sleeved cable extensions that we're adding for flavor, along with the Montech Air 903 Max case, which features 3 140 millimeter PWM addressable RGB fans on the front and one in the rear. The cooler here is a Thermalright Peerless Assassin in white, which has 6 heat pipes and 2 120 millimeter PWM addressable RGB fans. And that's pretty much all the specs in a nutshell. But here's our graphics card. We're also lining it up, or aligning it, Gigabyte with a Gigabyte motherboard. Gigabyte graphics card with a Gigabyte motherboard. Reason why is generally because software. It helps with managing both devices. PSU, like I said, was a 750 watt 80 plus gold by Cedratep with the 12 high power cable, the PCIe 5.0 cable, and it's ATX 3.0 ready. Not needed for this build, but would be needed for future larger NVIDIA graphics cards. We'll be installing that in a moment. But the graphics card is also in white to align with the color theme, as well as the Gigabyte to align with the motherboard. So it'll look pretty badass in here. Going in. Have to line up. In, down. Screws on the side here. 2 screws on the side which secure the card, as well as PCIe clip on the back helps secure it. Generally, if it was a heavier weighted card, I would add a GPU bracket to help support it, but this is not a super heavy graphics card, so I'm not really concerned about supporting the weight. But if I did put a support bracket in, it's either going to be an L bracket or a peg or the back brace bracket on the motherboard. So either one of those. Although there is kind of a weird bend to this card already. Look at it. If I need a bracket, I'll add a bracket. I have some here. So, let's go ahead and add our PCIe cable. It is sleeved which is a sleeved extension cable. We'll add some cable combs to this, and then we'll drop the power supply in, do some cable management on the backside, and fire it up for the very first time. Oh, power supply time. Doo-doo. Oh, we also have to get these in. You do any additional configuration overclocking after the build is complete. So the basics is what we'll cover when it comes to the, we'll say, overclocking, which is generally your XMP profile, but we're not overclocking your CPU. If you do want that done to your PC, like a fine tune, we do offer that service, and we work with Chamber Tech. And if you don't know who he is, you can actually go look up his Twitter or his website. But we work with him, and he actually does the tune with us remotely as we tune it and test it. And then, you know, one of the benefits of doing that here is that we have the time and the tools here to not only tune it, but also test for stability. So then when we ship it out or you come pick it up, if you're local, then you know for sure that it's already been tested for stability. So we'll kind of fine tune it to the point where we have the best stability with the best overclock. And in some cases, for example, with the Intel CPUs, especially like the 14900K or the 13900K or KS, you generally end up underclocking those anyway. So, but outside of that, basics, which is XMP profile BIOS update, is completed, so BIOS gets shipped with the most recent version. And then Windows side, really the only changes that we are making is Windows power limits and some other small tweaks here and there. But generally speaking, when somebody gets a computer, they like to create their own profile. So when they do that, those settings usually get wiped out. So, you know, it's kind of hard to do until the PC is in the person's hands and they have the profile in place for the Windows side of stuff. But all the drivers are installed, etc., so those are all ready to go out of the box. So generally speaking, your experience is you pull the PC out of the box. If you did not pay for the overclocking or fine-tuned service, then what your expectation is. PC is out of the box, BIOS is updated, XMP's loaded up on it, Windows is up to date, and all the drivers are up to date and installed, your fan curve is set, etc. All the basics. But there's no overclock on the PC at all, because that takes a lot of extra time. And if we're doing it, we need to be paid for the time. So that's why we charge for it. Took like 5 seconds. I would happily add it to the list and do it. So your PC will be performing at stock settings, and we also do benchmark tests on the system before it goes anywhere after any change. So if some small changes, we have to redo our benchmarks. That's really to ensure that we're sending a PC that is ready to go. That is what we call our battle tested phase. Is we test everything before we ship it. We've had problems before where we shipped a piece. It got there and it was immediately wouldn't post, and it ended up being bad RAM, and there was no damage whatsoever in sight on the packaging. So kind of a shock. Like, okay, well, we know this thing posted and was running just fine before it left. It gets there. So there's situations like that will happen. That is completely out of our control. And then there's, you know, UPS damage itself, which sucks, but happens. Doesn't matter how well you package your PC. UPS is going to damage it. They're going to damage it. Good information, Dave. Yeah, no problem. What do you charge for just a normal build, percentage-wise? It honestly depends on the caliber of build that it's going to be. Because not only are we charging for the build, but we also offer a 2-year warranty. That warranty has to be paid for as well, technically. There's a percentage that goes towards it. So, generally speaking, the percentage change is based on the caliber of the build, and also other things to take into account is the amount of time it takes to build it, for example. But generally we're making about $100 or so per build is what it comes out to generally. And you know, the higher the caliber of the build, the more that's going to be. And then our open loops, if we're doing an open loop, we charge $850 up front for both the GPU and the CPU, because we're designing the loop and building it out and testing it, and there's a ton of work involved with that. So $850 is very fair for an open loop. I don't care if anybody tries to argue that price, it's very fair. The amount of work and time that goes into those, same. And you're taking the risk, all the risk, away from the customer. So risk is all on you. So there's that. Here's the 750 watt 80 plus gold power supply that we're installing today. A fully modular power supply, so we're cables currently, and we'll get it installed and get the cables plugged in. Finish up the cable management backside of the case before firing it up for the very first time. Are you looking for a PC right now, Mr. Real Talk? In the market? You need help finding one, I can help. I don't care if people buy or don't buy from me. That's why we call ourselves Empower Gaming Computers, because we're here to empower you. Just a dude that loves building PCs, and that's what I do. Do. Almost there, guys. This is the boring, most satisfying part of the build because you can watch all the in we go. Okay. There we go. About as clean as we're going to get these cables on the backside here without having to go through some major changes. But pretty clean. Back panel on. Clean up the hardware here. Bench. There it is. And don't worry, I'll get you a side view here before we fire it up. All of its prettiness. All right, Elena, are you ready? Are you here for us to push that button? We need to hear it from you. You need to tell us. Push that button. I don't think she's here. I'm starting to doubt it. I think she's dropped off. Probably fell asleep while we were doing the cable management. Go for it! Oh, she is here! All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Uh-oh. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Thank you so much. No problem. Yeah, we are posted, which means it's on. It's checked into the BIOS. So that means what's up next? Well, we got to install Windows. We got to do the BIOS update. We have to install drivers, and then we have to go through set the XMP profile. We have to do all the Windows updates that are left, and some other minor tweaks, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, and then we're ready to go. So again, just like the first build today, Joel's PC, we should have this ready to go Monday. So tomorrow's gonna be a long stretch. I will probably have it mostly done tonight, and then ready probably late tomorrow. But the problem is I won't be here towards the end of the day, so I won't be around available for you to come pick up. So Monday is going to be the day I will be here and available for pickup. So if you wanted to come by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, any one of those days, feel free to plan your trip over to pick up. Unless something bad happens during the battle tested phase, which, you know, I'll notify you and let you know, hey, we got a problem, which then just means we just have to source a replacement part of whatever the problem is, because that still happens. Unfortunately, we run into lemons. May post and it may seem like it's working, but once we put a load on it, which is why we test it, that's when problems start to show. Monday's perfect. I'll be at the Tigers game tomorrow anyways. Nice. Go Tigers. Say go Tigers for me. Or Yeah, what's the chant? Let's go, Tiger. No, something like that. I'm old. I can't remember crap anymore. It's been a while since I've been to a... Honestly, I haven't paid attention to the Tigers as much as I have this year since probably like 2011, 2011, 2010. It's been a long time. 2012 probably through like, I guess 2010 through like, I'd say 2014, 15 was my primary Tigers focus time. Outside of that, I have not paid attention since till this year, which they've been actually pretty impressive. So enjoy your Tigers game tomorrow. Look out for the email probably Monday or Sunday night saying that this is ready to go, and we'll see you on Monday. That's it for us, guys. Those are all the builds we're doing tonight. We are built out for the evening, and we're going to probably this week we'll start again working on those YouTube series, two YouTube series that I want to put together and start doing. And then as we get more builds, which I do have another build here, we're just waiting for the CPU, which is ironically showing up on Monday as well. So we'll probably have a stream either Tuesday or Wednesday, but it'll probably be Tuesday night. But thank you again, everybody, for hanging out and chatting. It was nice seeing everybody and meeting the new people here. We'll see you probably Tuesday night. Have a good night, guys. Take care.